planning processes in lieu of, say, a sub-area plan, which we really don't have, as I said, anything pending.
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
Okay. The board wishes to continue, or is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion that we continue with J-less.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Akers, that we continue with the development of the joint land use study with AP Hill and other surrounding localities. One comment is, as the town of Bowling Green has stated, that they make no commitment whatsoever to accept or implement any proposal or recommendation that may be developed during the preparation of the joint legislative land use or joint land use study. So I believe the county would have that same position, but we are developing a study. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Do I want to do the technology zone, or do we want to take a break now? Okay, if we take a break now, we can be back here at 7:30 rather than trying to squeeze another one in.
Right.
I don't care.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break now, and we will be back at 7:30 for public comment, and then the 3 public hearings that we have after that. So we will stand adjourned until 7:30. All right, we will reconvene the May 24th meeting of Caroline County Board of Supervisors. We had taken a break at the public comment section of the agenda. So at this point in time, we will ask any citizen that would like to come forward and make a public comment about any issue that is not a public hearing for the evening, if they would do so now. So is there anyone who would like to speak to the board regarding any matter?
Hi, I'm Danette Moen, the General Registrar, and this is the Electoral Board. We would like to thank y'all for letting us have this time tonight. We're here tonight to ask for the position of an additional assistant in the Registrar's office be added back into our budget. Barbara works on Thursdays and some Fridays to handle voter registration and getting voter cards out. She also works whenever I'm at meetings, conferences, sick time, near elections, and vacation. I had added days in the 2011-12 budget for redistricting, and that money was taken out of the budget, along with the money for an additional assistant part-time. The workload in our office continues to increase. This increase is not only from an increased number of registered voters, but from duties being delegated by the State Board of Elections, as I mentioned in the email that I sent y'all this afternoon. As a registrar, I start the year off tracking bills with the General Assembly. In the last 2 years, we had at least 165 plus bills each year, not just combined. I've contacted the county administrator on occasion, sent you, the Board of Supervisors, emails asking you to contact our legislators on bills I believe will put an additional financial burden on the county, and sometimes ask you to call them about things that I believe will help the elections community. Once the bills pass, I have to figure out which ones were, which laws change, because even though the laws changed July 1st, we don't actually get our new book until August, so I have to figure out what laws change. At this time, I'm in the process of helping candidates, trying to get our street file clean so we can start to put on the new information on voters that are affected by redistricting into a plan section. That will actually be most everyone in Caroline. We have a new district. The House is changing us from the 97th district to the 55th district, and we're possibly going to go from 2 congressionals to 1 congressional district, which means that everybody that any of these affects has to be changed. I've also started trying to keep up with the state board on the dates that we have to have our changes. Veris is the computer system that we talk to state board with. I have to get the information into Veris by certain days so that the state board will pay for our voter cards instead of us having to do it. Everything has a positive and negative side to it. Like our workroom is very secure. It has block walls, it has no windows, but it's on the other end of our building. Every time we go to have to do something there, have to lock the doors in my office, put the clock on the door, lock that door, and then leave. And I can't be gone very long because we can't leave our office unattended for very long. Barbara, she keeps up with the chief's bags, and she hasn't even had a chance to go through those since the last election because we're so busy. Every Thursday, which is the day she works, the state board sends us a packet. And she's been busy all day with working on the packet that she's not been able to go to do her other duties. Also, the electoral board budget needs to be increased to cover a presidential primary and possibly an August primary. Those elections weren't on the elections calendar when we made our budget in November. We haven't heard yet whether we're going to have an August primary. We won't know that until June 17th. That's when the party chairs certify their candidates. So we'll not actually know whether we're going to have the August primary until to the middle of June. And so again, we would like monies put back into the budget for the for redistricting, an assistant registrar, and for 2 elections that we didn't have on the elections calendar. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Moen, normally at public comment, we would say thank you, and that would be the end of it, but since you're actually kind of a department head that's come before the board, I'll ask the board members if they have any questions of you, if that's all right.
That's all right.
Okay. Any questions?
Is there a figure, total amount you're asking for?
Yes.
$21,000
21 was,
for the
yeah.
2 elections and the 16?
And 16,695 for the redistricting and the, thank you.
37?
So it was 37,695.
Okay, thank you.
That's a question I had, actually.
Okay. Mr. Seeley, you have any questions?
No, I thought her email pretty much said it all.
Okay. Mr. Akers?
No, I read her email when she sent it to us earlier this afternoon. I'm just concerned about the $38,000 as to
Right.
where we're going to get it.
Ms. Moen, you're like, I guess, kind of quasi. You're like a regular constitutional officer in that the comp board determines the number of people for the sheriff and the treasurer and the
Right, the
commissioner
electoral,
of revenue. Is there some board, does the state electoral board?
The local electoral board.
But I mean, the state electoral board doesn't say you should have a registrar and an assistant and here's some funding? They do?
The state board says that we have to have a registrar, which they reimburse most of that, and that we have to have at least a person there 1 day a week if we have more than 15,000 people in the county. But the local electoral board can say whether or not the office needs more assistance.
Okay, but my point was really the state doesn't say you need this and here's money for that.
Right.
The state just says you get 1 register in Caroline County and we'll give you back 75 or 80% of whatever that salary is, and that's it.
Right, that's all they pay for, yes.
Okay, so all your additional funding is all local money?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
All righty, I think that's it for us. There are no other questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, if you don't mind. When can we expect a decision from the board as far as you're going to fund this? Because by state code, you're supposed to.
If you step to the mic,
I'm
just
sorry.
make sure.
I'm Kathleen Self. I'm one of the electoral board officers. So I'd like to know when we can expect.
No,
a
stay at the
decision.
mic so we can hear you.
You need to stay at my.
There you
Okay,
go.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. Yeah, and your question was,
When can
when
we
are you gonna make
expect-
a decision so you can react to it?
Right, because we're supposed to have Danette, who's the registrar, and we have to have someone who can also run the elections should she become sick.
Right.
Right now, there is no one. If Danette gets sick, hurt in an accident, whatever, we don't have anybody. We need to have someone who gets in there that becomes acquainted with the laws, acquainted with all of the working voting systems, everything that can take over just in case she becomes sick.
And Mrs. Allen is just a part-time 1 or 2 day a week person, right?
Yes, yes, mostly one day.
She's not what's considered a deputy registrar or an assistant?
Yeah. She's the deputy registrar, and she does watch the office while I'm gone. But if there's any questions that are, that have to do with the law or anything like that, she waits till I get back to answer those questions.
Okay.
And her health is not.
All right, to answer your question, we are actually still working through the budget. We will probably finalize the budget on June 14th, which is our next board meeting.
Okay.
So at that time, we will be able to tell you what's going to happen, one way or the other. And your filing deadline is June 16th?
I'm sorry, Jeanette.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The filing deadline for candidates is June 15th?
No, for the election in November, it's August 23rd.
August 23rd?
Yes, because that's when the primary is, and so that's when the,
Okay, right.
they
It's
moved
almost
that,
back.
when they moved the primary, they moved the date that candidates need to be registered. But we don't want everybody to come in on August 23rd, or Barbara and I might take a cruise.
Well, that's what I was just trying to match up because I thought it was June something, but
June the 17th is when the party chairs have to have their
candidate certified, I guess.
yeah, their candidates certified.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you have up until August. So, all right, so the point is, we're going to try to decide by June 14th, and that should give you plenty of time to
get
make
some-
arrangements
Yes.
one way or the other.
One way or the other.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good, thank you.
Okay, and continuing with public comments, is there anyone who would like to speak to the board regarding any matter that is not a public hearing? Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board regarding any matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak to the board regarding any matter? Okay, hearing none, we'll declare public comments closed. Mr. Fincham, you needed to get something from Mr. and Mrs. Marshall. You got that? Okay, and I just saw them. All right, our first public hearing is RZ 03-2010. Ray L. and Betsy T. Marshall request a rezoning from RP Rural Preservation to B1 Business, and this is in the Madison voting district. Mr. Fincham?
Mr. Chairman, members of your board, first public hearing tonight is RZ 03-2010 for Ray L. and Betsy T. Marshall. They are requesting a rezoning from rural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land to B1 business with no specified density but with proffers on 15 tax parcels in the Ladysmith area. The property is located on the east side of Route 1, approximately 1/4 mile south of Route 639 in the Madison voting district. The proposed use is business. Comprehensive plan identifies this property as being located within the Ladysmith community planning area and designated as neighborhood business. The applicant submitted the rezoning application to the planning department, and it was considered at a public hearing by the Planning Commission on March 16th of 2011. The Planning Commission voted 4-1 to recommend approval of the rezoning subject to the proffers which are included in your packet. In addition to those proffers, the applicant has also proposed an amended proffer which would give a $4,000 cash proffer to the Board of Supervisors, with $1,000 each being specified for the Caroline County Sheriff's Office, the Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Department, the Ladysmith Volunteer Rescue Squad, and the proposed YMCA or any other recreational facility in the Ladysmith area. The applicant did execute that amended proffer agreement prior to the public hearing. So the additional proffer that Mr. Marshall has proposed would be a $4,000 cash proffer for capital cost associated with those 4 items that I mentioned.
And that's just one $4,000, not?
$4,000 total, $1,000 for each of the 4 items, yes, sir. And he is proposing that that be paid within 6 months of the date of approval of the rezoning. In the proffers, the applicant also agreed to meet the design guidelines for Ladysmith Village, Ladysmith Commons, and other commercial projects in the Ladysmith area. One area of concern was access to the site. Since the property does front on Route 1, it is in the Highway Corridor Overlay District, and there are existing rights of way platted as part of the old Ladysmith subdivision. Those rights of way are actually privately owned. They were never dedicated to Caroline County, and in order to utilize those rights of way, Mr. Marshall would actually have to secure access to those rights of way. If he is unable to do so, then by ordinance he is allowed an entrance onto Route 1, and the proffers and review and approval of VDOT would address those entrances to Route 1 if necessary. So all that's covered either through the proffers or would be covered by the HCOD regulations at site plan review.
Okay, and one last question for me, Mr. Fincham. What type of business was proposed? It just says proposed use business.
Most of the businesses would be your low intensity types of uses within the highway corridor. Would be professional and business offices, small scale retail facilities. The existing uses that are there now could continue. There's an existing residential use. There's also an existing vehicle repair establishment that are grandfathered uses and can continue. Your more intensive uses such as service stations, auto repair facilities, things like that have been proffered out by the applicant. So the proposed commercial uses would be consistent with the neighborhood commercial designation of the comprehensive plan.
Okay. I think it's in our packet. It said, I saw a beauty shop and another one of those, so, okay. All right, board members have any questions of Mr. Fincham at this time? No questions, Mr. Fincham, thank you very much. We will declare the public hearing for RZ 03-2010, Ray L. and Betsy T. Marshall to be open. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Mr. Marshall, when you come forward, just state your name and your voting district.
Ray Marshall, Madison District. My wife and myself reside on this property. As Mr. Fincham said, is it within the zoning that's kind of been set up by the Ladysmith subcommittee. And it's really less, we have taken out, I think, 11 different things that could be used by right under B1, so it's really kind of a light B1, I guess you would say. It would have to be, of course, developed within the specified guidelines, and there are ample means to control the development through the site plan and the other criteria that have to be met. It's within, of course, the boundaries designated for B1 by the Ladysmith Sub-Planning Committee, and I guess that's about all I can say. I don't know whether I can answer any questions or not.
That's fine. Thank you, sir. If you'll have a seat, if we have some questions, we'll ask you again. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll declare the public hearing to be closed. Board members at this time have questions of the applicant or of Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Seeley? Go ahead, Mr. Seeley, you're recognized.
I guess my question is I'm looking at this easement that's actually in the plat that we have. So the applicant doesn't own the easement?
The rights of way or easement or ingress egress easements were actually platted back with the original Lady Smith subdivision when all those lots were put to record. The right of way or easement was never actually dedicated to Caroline County, and the ownership it's still in private hands. It's not a public right of way. And as such, we cannot require the applicant to utilize those rights of way or easements for access for their development. They would have to secure the approval to use those rights of way from the actual owner of that property. And if that cannot be secured, then by ordinance they are allowed to utilize direct access to Route 1 subject to VDOT approval. And there will be a limit on the number of entrances that they could have on Route 1.
And I guess that's where my next question goes, because we have like 7 lots across on one side of the easement and 3 on the other. And then you've got these that are pretty much landlocked.
Yes, they would all actually have to be, the lot lines would be vacated and consolidated as part of the development process. But they would be actually limited to one point of access for those blocks by ordinance.
And they can't so
they couldn't get 7 different access points.
I guess here's my question. You have the set on the left and the set on the right of the easement. You've got the 4 and then you've got the rest. How do you, so you can't cross that for those parcels then, technically?
That's correct. So your block of 4 would be allowed an access point.
Okay.
And your block on the other side would be allowed an access point as well. So in theory, you could have 2 new points of access, or you could have 2 points of access onto Route 1. In fact, there is already 1 access to the garage now.
Is that in the block of 4 and in the other blocks?
That's before you get to the, well, if you, from the house,
Mr. Marshall,
That would be the larger block.
oh,
from the house going south, the body shop joins the next street. What I was getting ready to tell Mr. Fincham, we haven't recorded it, but we've got it into 3 tracks. In other words, it's, all the lot lines will be vacated and you'll only have 3.
Okay, so I guess that's where I was going, is how do then you divide this so that ingress and egress doesn't
Yeah.
become an issue for
Yeah.
somebody?
Yeah, each track will lead to Route 1. If we have to use off of Route 1, I would say that we'd probably, if it could work it out with VDOT, it would probably use the same entrances going to the body shop and just have 1. I'm sure they'd rather not have another entrance probably.
By ordinance, they would be limited to 2 entrances.
Off of Route 1?
One for the 4 blocks and a common entrance for the remaining 11 blocks.
So is that Garland Street?
Yeah.
So that won't be used as an entranceway at all?
That's what we are using now, but as he said, that is that's owned privately, and we haven't talked to the owners. I don't know. We were waiting to see what would happen here, whether they will allow us to use it. We, work out something to improve it or what have you. I don't know, but if not, then we would have to go the other route with.
And there's no way that the owner of the easement is going to allow that to be an entranceway? Is that a possibility?
I would think so. Mr. Wright was here. I don't know who it is.
Who owns it? Oh, Matt Wright. Okay.
Mr. Wright is one of the owners of that of that easement, but I haven't discussed it with him. We were waiting
Well, no,
to see.
I'm just looking at ingress and egress because that's
Mhm.
off of Route 1. We've had VDOT before going, you know, we're limited with the number of entrances and exits they want from that. So that's my
Yeah.
only concern is they keep telling us that that is an issue.
Well, as I say, if that didn't work out, I think probably what would happen would be this, to get to that, to where the house is, which joins the body shop, that you would use the, maybe just widen out the body shop entrance, but just have that one entrance.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Akers, questions?
Who was, I noticed, and Mike, normally you put in the board packet as to how the vote is taken at the planning commission.
It was 4-1.
But I mean, who voted against it?
I believe Mr. Stanley voted against the proposal, and in looking at the minutes, there really was no discussion
As to why he voted against it?
as to the vote.
Okay, all right. You know, I've gone over, if you would, board, and Mr. Marshall and Mrs. Marshall has certainly, they have proffered out things that I don't think would fit into the neighborhood business area in the Ladysmith. They've also proffered that they will make sure that the structure has the same appearance that Ladysmith Commons has and the banks and other things in the Ladysmith community. And I support this project, and I know what this is going to be there. It's going to be quality. And so therefore, I'd make a motion that we approve this rezoning request 03-210 for Ray and Betsy T. Marshall.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Pompowitz for the approval of RZ 03-2010. Ray L. and Betsy T. Marshall, rezoning from RP to B1. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. That's approved. Next agenda item is special exception 04-2010. Ralph Olberg and Gail Edgerly. Owner applicant requests a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13 for the proposed use of a bed and breakfast. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing is SPEX 04-2010 for Ralph Olberg and Gail Edgerly, owner and applicant. They're requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, standards for special use permits, and Article 4, Section 5, Paragraph 3, a bed and breakfast on tax map 108-A-81A, consisting of 3.07 acres. The property is located at 33124 Discovery Lane in the Reedy Church District. The proposed use is a bed and breakfast. The 2030 Comprehensive Plan identifies the property as being located outside of the Dawn Village Community Planning Area and designated as rural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres. The Planning Commission held its public hearing on this proposed application, and after a 1-month delay out of questions about the location and type of property, recommended approval of this request to the Board of Supervisors unanimously. The recommended conditions are included in your staff report and would include a 2-year review of the special use permit. There were no public comments either in favor of or in opposition to the request, and the Planning Commission's recommendation was unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. Board members have any questions of Mr. Fincham at this time? All righty, again, thank you, Mr. Fincham. We will declare special public hearing for special exception 04-2010, Ralph Olberg and Gail Edgerly to be open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Hearing none, the public hearing is declared closed. Board members at this time have questions. Is the